Welcome back to the Transparency. Turtleboy, our May 2023 blogs, speeches, and acts protected First Amendment speech. Again, come on in here. It is Sunday, March 1st, kicking off the birthday month. Woo. All right. So a lot has happened. Wow. 120,000 plus pages. I think it's like 127,000 pages. Turtleboy's cell phone/phones. Cell right extraction. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that terminology here. Woo. How does one remember I've been putting this out there for a while to talk about the fact that Aiden's devices are going to tell a lot. Well, yeah, things don't look, the optics don't look good, right? But in the end, like, what does it all mean? So we're going to get to that. But first, I really want to show you guys something that was really missed, and it should have been. And so what I did is Aiden made a blog about Sarah Levinson. Okay. In his blog, what I did is I just took what he did and copy, cut, and pasted it. So like you see how these little purple underline things here? This is what he was focused on in his blog, which was to show that when this interview took place on November 3rd, 2022, the subject of the interview was Sarah Levinson spelled wrong. Okay. And he's like, here, look at this. And then look at these times. And he just went through, and all he did was focus on all the times that this name was spelled Sarah like that, not with an H. And then how Nagel was an N-A-G, E-L. This was his main focus of the 3 paragraphs. So 2, 3, and then one's up here from Proctor's report. Now, I want to show you guys something though. With this report, the person that actually interviewed Sarah, it says here, Sarah arrived at the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office for a scheduled interview with Trooper Connor Keefe and myself. So Connor Keefe was also there. It wasn't just Trooper Proctor. Now, if they would have actually taken the time to read the significance here of what Sarah Levinson says, I believe that so much could have been different in round 1. Let me show you. I mean, this is straight. This is Trooper Proctor's report. He interviewed Sarah. Take a look at this shit. Right here, Sarah says that not only does she give up the names of the people that were there at that party, but she says something that's so significant. She says that, when she arrived with Julie Nagel over there that evening, she thought, they put here, Sarah arrived around 8, she thought. Okay. And right here, Sarah stated that Brian Sr. arrived home from New York with his friend, who she did not know. The two were returning from a New York police officer's funeral who was killed in the line of duty. Sarah stated that Brian Sr., Nicole, and his friend left the house to go to a bar in Canton, but did not know which one. Sarah stated that when Brian Sr., Nicole, and Caitlin returned home, they were there. They were with a few friends, Matthew and Jennifer McCabe, and Brian Sr.'s friend from earlier, who Sarah did not know. Now, right here, everybody should be like, oh my God. Wait a second. What? Sarah said that she's seen Higgins at 34 Fairview earlier that night before they left to go to Canton. Now, I made a huge whiteboard and broke this all down because there's a lot to take in there. That is Holy shit. Holy shit. Wow. Have you guys ever talked about that? Has anybody ever talked about that? That, wow. Sarah Levinson said that the person, when she was there, that Brian Albert, okay, comes back to the house, or like comes to the house, and it was earlier, and that he was with a friend. And then this friend of his, who she did not know who it was, him and Brian Sr., and then Nicole all left together. Okay. Now, how is this not the main story? How is this not the main story? How is focusing on, we get it. He spelled Sarah the way that it says, but that's not how her name is supposed to be spelled. It's supposed to be, well, guess what? Lank, he didn't mess up the way that it was spelled. So the Canton police reports got it right. So you're really, I'm sorry, for me, you're splitting hairs there, because Trooper Proctor is an absolute idiot. So if he never took the time to say, hey, do you spell your name with an H or an A? So I don't see it being that big of a deal. The reason why is because it wasn't like they took the interview of this girl right away and they tried to bury it. Okay. What the most important part of this interview is about is, holy shit, Sarah saw Higgins and Brian at that house prior to them going anywhere. Well, Lana, why is this important? Well, let me break it down for you. So, cheers, by the way. Cheers. Cheers to Celebrate, you know, that software program. Cheers. All right. Yeah. So I went and I took Sarah's interview, Caitlin Albert's interview, Nicole's interview, Julie's interview, Caitlin Albert, Brian Higgins, and Brian Sr. Okay. And the most important thing I wanted to ask was to myself, which was, when they had Sarah Levinson on the stand, did they ask Sarah Levinson anything about this? And you guys know I'm a huge Liza Little fan, and so is Bella. And Sarah Levinson was never asked anything about this. I did get one of my answers, though, which was when Higgins was on the stand. Remember, we wanted to know what type of vehicles Higgins had in his possession, or could have had in his possession. And it is, he had a, so I want you to know that this is what Higgins said he did. Brian Albert and his brother flew to the funeral. Then because of the storm, they rode back, okay, with Higgins. Higgins says that I dropped off Brian Albert at a Boston police department, and I still had, and that was Hernandez as well, and I still had Kevin Albert with me. Now think about this. Ready? This is going to blow your minds. And then he said, after I dropped off Brian Albert, then I took myself and Kevin Albert to Canton Police Department, where that's where I basically dropped off Kevin Albert at the Canton Police Department. Because then at the Canton Police Department, I then basically changed the truck I was driving. I left that there, and I got into my Jeep. Okay, my Jeep with a plow, which I found the Jeep, and the Jeep does not have a plow on. But more importantly, Higgins, because here you want to like empower Sarah Levinson, not like destroy Sarah Levinson. Sarah Levinson just gave you all gold. She said that Brian Albert and a guy that it was his friend, but that she didn't know. Well, I have a question. Could that have potentially been Kevin Albert? Okay, just hear me out. Obviously, everyone's gonna say, "Oh, it was Higgins." It was Higgins, but could it have been Kevin Albert? Because would she have been known Kevin Albert? The reason I want you guys to hear this is because the same person that Sarah Levinson saw before they left to go to Canton bars, is the same person that she saw afterwards, right? Okay. So I'm over here still leaving the question mark up, which is, so then there's a possibility that it could have been Kevin Albert. Okay. Higgins brings Kevin Albert back. He says that, oh, I went to Canton Police Department, blah, blah. Well, guess what Sarah Levinson says? Sarah Levinson said that when I arrived, we're all hanging out. Brian Albert Sr. and a friend of his come to the house. She sees both of them. Then she sees Nicole leave with them too. Now, this now makes perfect sense as to why everybody gets it wrong. When I say everybody, Caitlin Albert says that she never went to the house beforehand and that it was her and Tristan that went straight to Waterfall Bar. Okay. And then Julie Albert says that I went over there to pick up my sister and Caitlin. Okay. And then when Julie Albert testifies, she's like, my sister came there and I left with her, but Caitlin wasn't with us. Okay. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is where the lie comes. The lie is that it's all about a vehicle. And so if we're to take Sarah actually at her word, which is Higgins and Brian Albert were together to kick off this night at 34 Fairview, why in the world, okay, would Brian Albert, now think about why this makes sense. So if Brian Albert and Higgins are going to leave, it would be like this. Yeah, drop me off at Waterfall Bar because I'm going to meet up with Caitlin. The two dudes are going to go to Hilly first and they're going to come back and meet us because they're going to go do their like boy thing. You know what I mean? So now does it all make sense that Higgins gets in a vehicle, right, with Brian Albert, Nicole, and they leave and they take Nicole's vehicle. You know what it was an epic fail by everybody was to ask whose car was drove. You know, when Caitlin Albert has to give this little spiel, I want you to listen to this. So I have it timed up right away. We bring in, oh, not that one. But that's the article where I just took that right from. See? Okay, perfect. So I took his article that he used and said, Jesus, if you would have actually done anything that mattered, like, this is crazy. Hold on, yep, I see that. It's stuck. Hold on one second. Here we go.
Yes.
He arrived at 34 Fairview Road, your parents' home, on January 29th of 2022 after you got there, correct?
Again, Yes, because me and my parents were the first ones inside from what I remember.
Did you see what Brian Higgins drove to get there?
I did not.
You did not see where he parked his vehicle?
I did not.
At some point you...
Okay, now that's really important because the whole thing is that it's Caitlin and her parents in the vehicle that basically has to stop and wait for Higgins to supposedly pull back out of the driveway because he was, I was playing around and I wanted to plow the drive spot. Okay. Sure. Keep telling yourself that. Listen, if we take Sarah Levinson at her word, which we should have no reason not to, and she says that she saw Brian Albert beforehand with a friend, she did not know who the friend was, and then when they came back from the Canton bars, she saw him as well. But how she says that they returned is not that they returned together, by the way. So I wanted to go back and check out how this was addressed, which was...
Saw him inside the home, correct?
Yes.
And he made it into the kitchen and dining room. You saw him in...
Not.
You did not see where he parked his vehicle?
I did not.
At some point you saw him inside the home, correct?
Okay. Well, if you guys can just answer the question yourself. If Higgins went to Brian Albert's beforehand, does it make sense that they would have drove together? Yes. And now does it make sense that they actually took Nicole and dropped off Nicole? Because if you rewind when Caitlin says, hey, when you had to meet up with your mom, how did you get to the waterfall bar? Me and Tristan, we drove from Easton and we got there, and then my mom and Julie, they met us there. She never said that her mom and Julie came together. So Brian Albert and Higgins go to the hillside, then they come back to the waterfall bar, and now, because they're all in the same vehicle, now does it make sense as to why Higgins was in such a rush to leave when Brian Albert is leaving? Okay. Now it makes perfect sense. Brian Albert is my ride. I rode there with him because I went to his house, and what they're trying to do by saying, like, don't act like he came here and all that stuff, is to distance themselves as far as how close they were. It was just like I'm going to go up there. Sure. Yeah. Meet me up there type of thing. Oh, and then I just got invited here. Well, guess who blows all of this wide up? Like, guess who blows this up? Sarah Levinson. The person that if you would just read the report, she's over here giving straight up gold. Sarah Levinson is saying that Brian Albert and freaking Higgins, they came to the house before they ever went out, and then Nicole left with them. What the fuck, man? How do you miss that in reading this report to think, let's just go and attack this broad? Like, right? Take a look. Let's back it up now to
How long was he in the home when you were there?
Minutes.
During the course of the time that you were at the waterfall, either before or after,
Our plan. I believe that was always sort of...
at some point you came to Canton, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall how you came to Canton and where was it that you went first?
So I can't say for sure. From what I remember, I believe that my boyfriend, Tristan, and I went straight from Easton to the waterfall and actually got there before my mom and my Aunt Julie, from what I can remember. And then my mom and Julie ended up meeting us there. And that's when we sort of started just kind of like hanging out, ordering food, some drinks. And we were there for a little bit, just the four of us.
And do you recall about what time it was that you got to the water?
Okay. Now we're going to go to Sarah Levinson, and she says in quotes. So let's bring this back up. Sarah Levinson says in quotes, Sarah has known Brian Jr. for approximately 8 years and was in his house Friday, January 28th, 2022 for his birthday. Sarah arrived around 8 p.m. That evening with Julie Nagel. Sarah stated that all those people were in the house. Then she says that they ordered a pizza, and Sarah stated that Brian Sr. arrived home from New York, with his friend who she did not know. The two were returning from a New York police officer's funeral who was killed in the line of duty. Sarah stated that Brian Sr., Nicole, and his friend left the house to go to a bar in Canton, but did not know which one. And yet this never made its way on any question by anybody in the entire Karen Reed case. You've got to be fucking kidding me. You guys, this is putting Higgins, unless you want to say it's Kevin Albert. Take your pick. It's either Kevin Albert or it's Higgins. But here, instead of fucking witness intimidating this broad, holy shit, she gave y'all gold. Literally gold. Gold. Why the hell would Sarah Levinson say that she saw Brian Sr., okay, with a friend and Nicole Albert? Okay. Now, again, you can either say that this person that was over at the house, maybe they stopped by just afterwards because, again, I would think what makes so much sense to me is that Kevin and Brian, if they flew to New York, that they would have like flown together, like how they get to the airport type of shit. You know what I mean? So, but at the end of the day, we got these two dudes, Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, together at 34 Fairview. If you want to say, because what she then says is the same person that she saw beforehand is the same person that she saw later, the same friend that she didn't know who it was. And I'm saying that, okay, well, that means that Higgins or John or Brian Albert, right? One of those two dudes would have left their car there. I mean, why would you go to the hillside and then to the waterfall bar? And then it makes perfect sense now why Higgins' vehicle is not seen leaving the waterfall bar. When you look at the Canton library film, where is his vehicle? Well, he had access to 4 different vehicles, and I've been able to find a white and a dark car that, because he has a surveillance vehicle. So he has a truck, the surveillance vehicle, a gray Jeep, and then a pickup. So I said to myself, we're just assuming, taking everybody by their words as to say what vehicle y'all were in, but there are some sedans that are on the Canton Library film. Anyways, at the end of the day, there is no Jeep with a plow. Okay. But guess what car is missing in the morning? Nicole's caddy. Okay. Nicole's caddy. So here, what it looks like to me is Nicole wanted to go where? Hey, drop me off. I'm going to go to the waterfall bar, meet my sister Julie. and Caitlin, we're all going to meet for dinner. So drop me there. And then you guys are going to go off to Hilly and they're going to come back because that's just what the guys are going to do. Hey, we're going to go to the hillside for a little bit. We'll be back. And this is exactly what they do. They drop off Nicole, they go to the hillside and they come back. And I always wondered why when you saw Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, go back and watch the waterfall video. When do they walk in? Do they walk in together? Do they walk in truly 30 minutes apart? But now it's starting to make sense. It's starting to make sense why we don't see a Higgins vehicle leaving. Why, when they all walk out together, Higgins has to go back in and say, hey, come on, we're going because my ride's leaving. Like, why he was like, hey, if they're leaving, I'm with them. Like, I have to leave. That's not usually like Higgins. Like, Higgins would just do whatever he wants, leave whenever he wants, slow roll it. Well, here he couldn't slow roll it because Brian Albert was his ride. And that's what makes sense when you actually watch the waterfall video. You actually see Brian and them walking back to that black vehicle to leave out. And it's just like, where did Higgins go? Well, he had to have walked off to the right with them because there is no other vehicle. And remember, when Higgins is asked, where did you park? Where did you park when you went to the waterfall bar? I don't remember. Yeah, I bet you wouldn't remember. So again, here, we could have gotten a lot more out of Sarah if actually, when you read the report, you listen to what she's saying in the report. Sarah Levinson says that Brian Albert came to the house. He didn't just leave right from the Boston Police Department where he was in his Ford Edge and go straight to the Hilly. That's not what happened. According to Sarah Levinson, she's at the house and she's like, I see Brian Albert and a friend of his who I do not know who that person is at the time. They just had drove back from a funeral in New York. And then they leave to go to the Canton bar. Don't know which one they went to. Now think about it. She wants to say, I don't know which one they went to because she knows potentially that maybe they were going to the hillside. Maybe the people were splitting up. Maybe she heard that. Okay. But nobody's asking her any of these questions. You saw Brian Higgins and Brian Albert together at 34 Fairview. Every single person testifies the exact opposite way. Why? Why would it matter? And then Caitlin, when she says that she leaves with her parents, it's on point, okay, that what's on point about it is that she's like, when they get back to the house, she's saying that, yeah, me, my mom, my dad, we're the first ones to get back. She doesn't mention anything about Higgins and some Jeep and that it was parked and blah, blah, and that it had to pull back and we had to wait. And then it was a big, like, woo. No, she's like, but they didn't ask her anything. Nobody went at that. So except for the fact that they just said, you didn't see where he went and parked? No. You didn't see Higgins park anywhere? No. Josie's on a vacation far away. Makes more sense. It was Kevin who was his ride. Kevin drove with him from Charleston parking lot. Well, that's not what Higgins is saying. So I'm just saying, I mean, there's no evidence of that. What Higgins is saying is that he, after dropping Brian Albert off, that he then drove to the Canton Police Department, and that's where he dropped off Kevin Albert. Okay. But so I think that there's a way to bring Kevin Albert into the mix, which is if Higgins is saying that after he dropped off Kevin Albert, he then switches out his vehicle because he doesn't want to have his work truck anymore. So he gets himself in the Jeep. Great. Awesome. But where you can put Kevin in the mix here is maybe the friend that Sarah's talking about is the fact that Kevin Albert came over after leaving Canton Police Department, came over to the house, right? And maybe him and his brother actually went and met up at the Hilly maybe for a little bit, then dropping off his wife. I mean, there's different options here, but I'm just saying that would then mean that Kevin Albert was back at that house that night, because basically the way that Sarah Levinson is giving, or this is written, is that whoever Sarah Levinson saw before they left is the same person that she saw after when they came back. The friend that she didn't know of, Brian Sr. So if she didn't know who Kevin Albert was, maybe she's just thinking it was a friend and not really like his uncle. I don't know. But at the end of the day, you have some options here. But Sarah Levinson was not utilized at all properly. And I blame all of it on whenever you would have gotten this discovery, just because the report was done in November of 2022. Okay. This all goes on to the fact that you're putting together everything unless you know what your client is telling you is factual. But some defense attorneys don't go in there and just say, hey, sit down and just, hey, tell me everything type of thing. That's not how that works. I don't know how Alan Jackson works, but a lot of defense attorneys, they don't do that. Okay. They're going to ask you things when they need to ask you things, but they're going to get all they can with the discovery and see where it leads. And hey, this person should have been interviewed. Where's that interview? Things like that. Also in the beginning, it sucks to talk about it, but Alan Jackson wasn't on the case right away. And I question how things were being preserved, because they arrested Karen Reed so quickly that you need to be on it to get or make sure that nothing is being destroyed, because they're not going out and getting the evidence, and so you're gonna have to go get it yourself, things like that. But here, I don't know how you possibly read this this report and you guys don't all look at each other and say, wait a second, Sarah Levinson saw Brian Albert and Nicole and Higgins before, like they were all at the house together before they went out that night. This has to be a mistake, or why is this being written? Like, you need to, it was never even asked in trial. It was never even asked in trial. And so what I'm trying to say here now, think about it. Karen Reed, for all intents and purposes, wherever John is saying that they're going, that's where I think I'm at. Okay? If you're telling me make a right, make a left, do this, do that, and we're supposedly going to this location, then when we get there, that's where I think we're at, right? So when I say something like, hey, I just don't believe that John O'Keefe got out of Karen Reed's vehicle at 34 Fairview, okay, that does not mean that I believe that Karen Reed never dropped him off at a location. I'm just simply saying that it was not at 34 Fairview, because that's what the evidence shows me. And I'm going to use Hector to explain this. Now, you guys know the infamous text when she says, Jen McCabe says, pull with a 3 L's, pull behind me. Not like pull up. This is pull behind me. Well, when I took everybody's testimony, first of all, you cannot have people parking in the same spot. Everybody cannot have the same spot. Everybody understand that? So everybody cannot be parked in the same spot. So the next morning, when the dash cam's on the house, there's only 2 vehicles there. What's missing? Well, it's the Explorer, and then it's the Edge, okay, on the left-hand side. So where'd Jen McCabe park? Hang tight. If you parked behind both of those vehicles, your big ass Tahoe is going to literally be at the, like, sticking out. Okay. So hear all this out. If in fact Higgins went to that house and left his vehicle there, that's in the driveway, then what's her name? Then you have the caddy. So the caddy's missing. How is Nicole's caddy not there? How do you not realize, and why are you so fixated on this Ford Edge? The Ford Edge is accounted for. The vehicle that's missing is Nicole's black Cadillac. Well, it would make sense that if Caitlin left and Tristan Morris really didn't come and pick her up, it makes sense that maybe she took her mom's vehicle. So maybe that's why that one's gone. But that would still be a lie, because why wouldn't you just say you drove Tristan's vehicle? Well, we didn't want to say that she was drinking and driving. You know what I mean? Whatever. But at the end of the day, why was no picture ever shown to Nicole and say, here, this is the dash cam in the morning. Here, this is the picture that the Canton Police Department took. Where's your vehicle? Where's your vehicle? How did you guys get to the waterfall bar? Remember, this is why this is a really important part of it. Julie said that she went to the house and that she took Caitlin and her niece. Well, her niece never says that she went to the house. Okay. And then Nicole says, when she testifies, that she just went there with Julie. And I'm like, dude, everybody cannot get everything with the cars right. And I'm like, that has always been the most important part of this case. Where did people park? Why would their cars have been there? And why would that matter? Well, ready for this? Ring, ring, ring. It's because they had to make it so that there was no vehicle that was ever out in front of the house ever, besides the one that they were going to say it was the SUV that was belonging to Karen Reed. Because that's where the lie, in my opinion, comes in, is to say, and they didn't lie per se to say, nobody ever said, like, I saw Karen and I saw a vehicle pull up. I'm really bad with vehicles. I don't know what vehicle it was, but okay. But like, let's roll the tape all back. If the Ford Edge is parked, the Explorer parked, then you have Higgins's Jeep that's actually parked in the driveway, and then you actually pull in behind it, or because Higgins's Jeep is there and you need him to move out, that you actually whip the caddy and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to park on the street for right now. Or you could maybe park behind your own other two vehicles, right? But then we have Allie coming to the house at 12:10, and she says that she parked in the driveway on the left side. And then we have Jennifer McCabe coming to the house, and she's saying that she parked her big Tahoe in the driveway on the left side. And I'm like, no, this is not at all possible. Everybody cannot be in the same fucking spot. Again, why would this matter? Right? So if we roll tape all the way back, if all the vehicles are there, the caddy's there, and then Higgins is actually either doesn't have a car there. These are the options. Higgins does not have a car there. Okay. Do we ever see the vehicle that when they actually come back to the to go to Canton that night at 1:40 or whatever? Do we actually get it from the video from the front, or is it the only video that we have is when it's already coming through the back? Do we ever see if there's somebody that's dropping him off to like get into his Jeep that's actually at Canton? Do we have the whole part? I can't remember that. Anyways, there's no room for Karen's vehicle. Because ready? Pull behind me. Pull. Ready? Pull behind me. Ready? You could not possibly, if you are Jennifer McCabe, be saying to pull behind me and where my vehicle is located if I'm on the left side behind the two vehicles that would be the Edge and the Explorer. If she's in, there's no room. You can't pull behind that. But if she's parked on the street, okay? But if you're parked on the street in front of the house, pull behind me. She 1000% cannot be parked in the driveway at the end and be telling somebody to pull behind me. It would have to be in the street. Which makes sense if you're looking at a diagram and you have in the driveway, it goes the Ford Explorer, the Ford Edge, and then you have the Caddy, or you have the Jeep, then the Caddy. Because if you truly did what you're saying is to let Higgins do all that, I mean, Caitlin Albert doesn't, that's like foreign to her, and yet she was in the vehicle. And she said that she was the first ones back, her and her parents, right? That's even more so about this whole like, well, whatever. But if you have Higgins's Jeep and you have the Caddy and then you have the Explorer and the Edge, those four vehicles are there. Wherever Jennifer McCabe goes, if she was to go into the driveway, there is no way that you could be saying, pull behind me, okay? Because there's no room. The only way that you could do that, and I'm going to go off of her words, which is that they pulled in on the left side. Well, then there's definitely no fucking room. Then there's definitely no room. Unless you're going to sit here and tell me that the Ford Explorer and the Ford Edge weren't there, which we have no reason to believe that because we actually have the Canton Library camera that shows that smaller Caddy leaving. And then that smaller Caddy is not there the next day, which is why would you guys ever focus on that Ford Edge? Because you got horrible intel. Because it was, whoever started talking about Colin Albert getting in a fight and all that shit. It's just bad intel. Or was it to stay away from the whole Higgins thing because it made Karen look bad? At the end of the day, the evidence is the evidence. And I think that Karen Reed took John, but did not drop him there. And at 12:31, when she writes, pull behind me, ready? Think about it. She doesn't move with her watch from 12:25 to 12:35. Okay. And the phone, once it arrives at 34 Fairview, doesn't take any steps until 12:46. So, Lana, what does that mean? Well, what it looks like somebody could potentially be sitting in a vehicle waiting. Okay. Pull behind me. Okay. Because from 12:25 to 12:35, no watch. Then the watch starts moving after 12:35. Okay. And if this means that a vehicle was sitting out front, which is the big SUV, okay, which people would have seen pull up who was ever inside, right? Oh, hey, there's a car here, or hey, there's a car here. That's why it was important. If you guys truly think about it, the most important thing here is to say that nobody was ever parked outside in the front ever whatsoever, never. Because we're going to leave that for one person only. And that's when this SUV rolls up and then they say, okay, well, what about, what's his name? Ryan Nagel. Ryan Nagel never said that I saw Karen Reed. Neither did the other kid, neither did the other girl. Okay. You guys, they saw a female in an SUV. Well, guess who you have options with? You have Caitlin Albert, you have Jen McCabe, and you have Allie McCabe. And to me, it could make sense about the whole pull behind me. Okay. Pull behind me. Someone's in the SUV that's out front. And then that's when the SUV inches up a little bit more to make room because, and then I said, well, we know that it's not the Nagel vehicle. And so well, maybe it is, right? Because the Nagel vehicle arrived. He says, well, I didn't really arrive at 12:23 because I said here, but I really wasn't there yet. I just said a little bit before I got there. Whatever. But just because that's being wrote to John's phone, not to Karen. You know what I mean? So if she's writing that to AKA what it seems like John got out of the vehicle over there in Oakdale / Crest. I think it was like, yeah, it was basically at the corner of Oakdale. So let's just say Oakdale. If he got out because Karen originally talking about, hey, this place looked like it was like all the lights were off. It was all dark. Does that sound like 34 Fairview when it was like a parking lot over there? No. Okay. It sounds like, okay, so, and it was the terminology of he jumps out, runs up to see if like, hey, this is like, we didn't even know if we were at the right place. That sounds like to me before you would ever even do a Waze search. And that's where all the steps start. And that's where all the flights of stairs are. And here, Karen, when I went back and read stuff like in the Lank report and all the Canton police officers' reports, is very interesting to read it again because it just went back to what I was saying. At 6:08 a.m., Good contacted Sergeant Lank at 6:08 and advised him that a male party had been found in the snow by the area of 34 Fairview Road. Sergeant Good stated that the party involved, who is a Boston police officer, was in grave condition and Canton EMS was on scene. At 6:08, Canton EMS weren't on scene yet. Canton EMS were not on scene at 6:08, for the record. They were dispatched. They weren't there yet. Next was when I went back and looked at Lank's report, he says the first person I was able to speak with was Jen McCabe. And she was able to provide us with this general timeline of events. And so this could be before you really got into any, because this was written up the same day. Let's see. Well, Sean Goods was. Jennifer was at Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton with her husband, Matt McCabe, Brian Albert, and Nicole Albert. No mention of Higgins. At approximately 11, they were accompanied by John and Karen. Then approximately at 12, Jennifer, Matthew, Brian, Nicole, they left the bar and went back to the Alberts' house at 34 Fairview. Now, either Jen McCabe saying this or Lank's writing it this way. It's one or the other. Approximately 12:14, ready? Ding, ding, ding. Approximately at 12:14 a.m., O'Keefe texted Jennifer and asked where they were going. Jennifer responded that they were going to 34 Fairview. Well, but you called him. And then the 34 Fairview was sentencing after the call. Then it says in his report, immediately it says moments later. Moments later. This cannot be Karen Reed's vehicle because she was not there moments later. Moments later, a vehicle pulled up in front of the house, which Jen believed was O'Keefe and his girlfriend Reed. She observed as the vehicle just sat out in front of the house for several minutes. The vehicle was facing uphill with the passenger side facing the house. She thought that the vehicle sat outside for at least 15 minutes. McCabe stated that neither party ever came to the door, and ultimately the vehicle drove away. She attempted to text O'Keefe, but never got a response. Now, think about this. In this timeline, this is leaving out the 12:18 call which was John calling Jen. Okay. And talking. Then the 12:29 7-second call. Then the 12:31. The 12:27 here, then the call at 12:29, which I think John was saying, be in a second, whatever, with the 7 seconds. And then the 12:31, pull behind me, because wherever that vehicle was, in my opinion, you need to pull behind me. Like, here, pull behind me. Like, you're in the driveway, you're blocking the driveway. But that all gets not talked about at all. The only thing that it says is that she attempted to text O'Keefe but never got a response. Nothing about the 6 calls afterwards. That, hey, yeah, I was calling him. I was like, that doesn't make it. Then, while on scene, he says, I attempted to speak with Reed and it was unsuccessful. She was hysterical and difficult to control. The only statement that she was able to relay to Canton officers while on scene was that she did not remember ever being at 34 Fairview Road. And I'm like, fuck yes, exactly. I don't ever remember being here. This does not look familiar to me. Not that I was so drunk, I don't know where the fuck I dropped him off. Like, this isn't where I dropped him off. Like, I don't ever remember being here. There's a two that's totally different. And it's just like, yeah, because I don't think that that's where you dropped John O'Keefe off. Okay. And it makes sense. John O'Keefe gets out of a vehicle and starts taking steps. Not when he was at 34 Fairview. Does that happen? He's over on Oakdale. He's over there. And it makes perfect sense when she's saying that I thought we got lost. Like we got lost. And then we didn't know if we were at the right place. And then so when John got out and ran up, that was the last time that you saw him. And I'm telling you, the Waze follows John. Okay? The Waze follows John. And so just because Higgins says, you come in here, everyone's thinking 34 Fairview. We have no idea if that means 34 Fairview. You come in here. I personally believe that you're going to find, if you get the location data from potentially Google, all right, in the civil case, see where, if Higgins's and John's locations are side by side beginning at 12:21. But she says, Reed later made statements via the telephone to her parents threatening suicide. So that's why he's saying that she got, the Section 12. Next, he's saying that I went to 34 Fairview Road. So he's writing his report in this chronological order that he hasn't even gone into 34 Fairview yet. So he's basically saying that what he got from Jen McCabe that I just told you guys about, okay, that was said outside during the 8 minutes that they're out there before Jen goes in to go to get her, sister and brother-in-law. So everything that he first writes down here is what Jen, and I just read to you guys. And it's, now this is the part. Next, I went into 34 Fairview Road. This is what Lang says. And spoke with the homeowners, Albert, Nicole, and Brian. Both parties from this point forward will refer to as their first names. Brian said that they had seen the victim at Waterfall Bar and Grill and had spoken to him. He said that he did not know the party very well, but knew that he was a friend of McCabe. Brian and Nicole recalled that the victim had been welcome to come to their house, but he never arrived. And everybody was so, convinced that John O'Keefe went into that house. Well, when you say arrived, are you talking that area, right? one of my theories has always been that if John O'Keefe was about to get into, let's say, he gets out of Karen's vehicle and Karen was hungry. And so that was the whole big point why she wanted D&E, right? She was like wanting him to make food and she's hungry and she's just annoyed or whatever. Then they get lost. Whatever. I'm supposed to be, am I dropping him off? Like, what's happening here? Is he supposed to come back to the vehicle? What's going on? There should be no ambiguity. Like, this should just be so, like, how does it get fucked up? How does this, where did this story ever come from? Because Karen Reed never talked, right? Never ever talked. So if you wanted information on what, hey, well, why didn't you go in and check on him and if he doesn't come back out? Or if she's just sitting there, like, why didn't she go in? Why wasn't she calling him when she was, physically at the, at the property? There was all these questions about just surrounding everything of the drop off, right? Well, the reason there was all these questions surrounding everything about the drop off is because somebody starts talking for Karen Reed on a public platform. And not knowing a goddamn thing about the case. And he literally just said that a couple nights ago. He said he watched my show and he's like, yeah, guys, I didn't fucking know. I didn't know anything then. And I'm like, dude, are you insane? You're admitting that? You're admitting that. I didn't know anything then. You were literally speaking for Karen Reed and saying that she was wild shit. But I still to this day hear people talk about this case and their narratives are coming from what that man put out. I'm talking about in the beginning. So he's saying that Lank's saying when he goes inside, he's just saying that John O'Keefe never arrived. That's the terminology that he used. He never arrived. So then he said, now this is what's double interesting about what Lank does here. He says that Brian said that he seemed to be fine at the bar and there were no issues whatsoever. McCabe Matthew, husband of Jennifer, also stated that he observed the vehicle pull up out front of the house, but never saw either party get out of the vehicle. Again, how do you know it's them? How do you know it's that vehicle? And if we go and we truly think about something here, that's been the main thing to say, is that we have to say that they came here. We have to say that they came here. That's the most important part of this whole story, is that she and John and that Lexus went to 34 Fairview. We have to say that we saw an SUV pull up. And I'm over here like, well, Lank shouldn't be putting in what Matt McCabe said yet, because when he first went in, Matt McCabe, he didn't talk to Matt McCabe. It was later when he talked to him with what's his tits. Anyways, he's like, yeah, Matt saying that he observed the vehicle pull up out front of the house, but never saw either party get out of the vehicle. Matthew also reiterated what Brian said. O'Keefe seemed to be fine at the bar and that there was really nobody else in the establishment other than their group. Next, I asked Brian and Nicole who else was at the house that night. Aside from the names already mentioned, the following people were present at some point during the time in question: Brian Albert Jr., Caitlin Albert, Julie Nagel, and Brian Higgins, who was a friend of Brian Albert Sr. And then the names that were left off the ticket were Colin, right? That was like this big thing of like Colin's name not being included. And then, I mean, I guess you could say that Tristan came to pick up Caitlin, if that's the case. And then Sarah. Now, those names 1000%. Like, this has been the number one question I would have asked Link on the stand. Link, how the fuck? This is Tina with What the Fuck Transition Services. How the fuck did you remember anything that anybody said to you? Did you have a recording device with you? No. Did you have a pen and a piece of paper? Like, how do you remember any of this shit? You don't have anything to write anything down, and you didn't record anything, and you didn't do anything inside of a trooper vehicle that had, you know, the recordings running. Like, seriously? So we have no idea if the names were actually all said or not. But at the end of the day, so again, I'm just like, that's a cop problem. That's like a working, like, what the fuck are you doing? They advised me that their daughter, left at 12:15 when she was picked up by her boyfriend, Tristan Morris. And then this was like the big issue, which was, and I thought Nicole Albert actually handled it really well. Either she's a really good liar, but she's prepared for it, however you want to look at it. But she's like, we never told Link that. I don't know if he got it mixed up when we're talking about people that are coming to the house and what time they got there, like my sister arriving at 12:15. But my daughter, we never said that she left at 12:15. We always maintain that she was the last one to leave. Okay. So I would have hammered them on how did you get to the waterfall bar again, and that about Brian Higgins being there earlier with and before, like, Sarah Levinson. So if Sarah Levinson said that she saw Brian Higgins and you and Brian Albert, your husband, leave together and getting all in a vehicle to go to the bars, she'd just be mistaken. She thinks that you are somebody else. And and so I went and pulled out the Canton Police Department images that they took. They took 18 images. And again, you can clearly see that there's only 2 cars in the driveway. How the fuck does this get possibly botched by the defense? How? Well, I'll tell you how. Because they have to babysit. And they're dealing with fucking Turtleboy. But there's only 2 cars in the driveway, guys. And the Ford Edge was there. It's the Ford Edge isn't the one that's missing. It's Nicole's caddy. And think about it. A daughter, hey, mom, I don't want to be here in the snowstorm. I need to leave because otherwise I'm going to be trapped here. Like, I'm taking your car. Okay, hon. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't need it. Like, love you. Be careful. I mean, did they really just not want to say it because she had been drinking? Or did she truly not take it, right? But Caitlin Albert does not get interviewed until she actually does in May was the grand jury in 2023. She actually testifies at a grand jury for the Fed case in 2023, and still hadn't been talked to by anybody like Michael Proctor or anything like that until August of 2023. Again, but when you look at these pictures, that vehicle is missing. Where the fuck did it go? It just doesn't fly away. And then, so what I don't understand is why you're not saying that the caddy was the car that was used, because it was actually parked out on the street as well. That would be the vehicle that would have been out there blocking where they placed John. Okay. Not the Edge and not the Explorer, because that's what the evidence looks like it shows. That's the car that's missing. I've always maintained this little where people say that they have their cars at, it's impossible. We're missing cars, okay? And then when we want to talk about potentially taking a dog up out of there, well, why don't we go back and look at the fact that that Jen McCabe calls her sister. Maybe she called her sister at 6:07 and 6:08 because she looks in the driveway and she's like, where the fuck are you? Like, her car's not there. I'm going to call my sister. And then now Nicole has maintained that I didn't answer those because I didn't get them. Okay. Well, so, all right. Now let's talk about something that's more current here. So I think that this was just an epic fail. I do. I think that this was just absolutely botched right here. We get literally a gift. And I think there's a lot of reports where these gifts were just given. And you have Sarah Levinson telling you that Brian Higgins, because it's the same person that she saw then later, was at that house before they went out to the bars. Joel, what's good? Now, I'm interested in this privilege. Okay. So what I mean about that is, okay. So first question is at 12:14, why didn't John, if the decision was made that they were going to 34 Fairview, right? Versus, hey, where to? She calls, says, hey, go and grab so-and-so from so-and-so's house, or whatever the hell, is being said. And then the 34 is and then come over here, or hey, if you're going to, it was like, are you guys grabbing somebody? Are you grabbing drugs? Whatever. I don't care. I don't know. But it's clear as day. The question is why didn't she punch in the GPS, the whole 12:14, when you got this supposed text right back, which it didn't happen that way. So you're waiting to type in, because if you're waiting in your car, hey, where to? And hey, Jen, what's the address? And then you would give it to Karen, or you would, okay, now I'm going to type it in, right? That didn't happen. It doesn't get typed in until in a John's phone until 12:19 and like 33 seconds. Okay. So if everyone was invited to the Alberts at the bar, then why, when Matt McCabe is getting into the car, is Jen inviting them at that point? Because that's what Matt McCabe said. Let's see. I've been studying that Canton Library camera footage for forever. And now, basically, Sarah Levinson popped the cherry on that. Higgy Bear was such in a hurry because Brian Albert was his ride. So he had to leave. That's why he's like, come on, let's go. Like, we're leaving. Let's go. Like, I'm like, why is he in such a hurry? He's a big boy. If he wants to wait a little bit longer, if he wants to, he's got to leave when they leave. Why? Because that's their ride. Why is his vehicle not seen on the camera? Because guess what? He rode with them. Makes so much sense. Why lie about any of that shit? Why lie about any of that stuff? Beats me. It really doesn't beat me, but let's see. Higgins slipping by saying move Jeep Cherokee at Canton PD when there was no reason for that mistake still stands out to me. Yep. Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to grab something else here. I'm going to show you guys now when I pulled up. Oh, who did I? Oh, yeah, this person. Here she is. Okay.
Yes. And now on that evening of the 28th, can you explain to the jury sort of how it was that where did you decide to go with your daughter and your sister-in-law?
We just decided to go to Waterfall, a local place, 5-10 minutes down the road from our house. My sister-in-law Julie picked me up at my house maybe 7:30, 7:45, and we went to the Waterfall, and I believe my daughter and her boyfriend Tristan were already inside at a table.
Okay, right there. She says that Julie came to pick her up. Julie may have went to the house, but she didn't ride with Julie. I'm still gonna go 1000% because, well, Julie, when Julie testifies, then Julie says that when she left with her, Nicole, and Caitlin. And I'm like, oh my God, like how does nobody know where they park? And how does nobody remember who they rode with? And this is like something that would stick out to you right away, and everything that you would start remembering, you would know about it because something significant happened, and happened so quickly after that. We're not asking you to jog your memory. And so these type of things, when you're getting this stuff mixed up, you guys, when you want to say mixed up, whatever you want to call it, it's a story. And it's usually important. And this whole car thing was so fucking important because there's not enough room. Because whew, it's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
And when your sister Julie came to pick you up at the house, in addition to yourself and your son Brian Jr., with anyone else, were one of his friends there?
I believe two girlfriends may have already had come and they were just sitting in the kitchen when I left.
Right there. Gives her credit. Right there. You understand that right there?
And your son Brian Jr., with anyone else, were one of his friends there?
I believe two girlfriends may have already had come and they were just sitting in the kitchen when I left.
And so you go out to the
Here it
waterfall.
is.
When you get to the waterfall.
So Sarah, check. She was there. She didn't leave yet.
Where within the establishment?
We
That means if Sarah's saying that she didn't get to the house until 8, that means that she couldn't have. In order for, I mean, she's not saying, well, I left and nobody was at my house yet. Two girls were there. Check for Sarah. Going at Sarah. What the fuck are you thinking?
came in, walked in. I believe to the left there was just some small
Sarah could have been a rock star.
tables, and I think Caitlin and Tristan were already sitting there, so we sat down at the table.
Yeah, I believe that Caitlin and Tristan were already there. And then Yannetti does a really good job back to talk about, well, if it was supposed to be the storms, the plan is I'm going to stick around and hang out with my family, right? And I'm going to wake you up to drive from, Easton again. So it was like Easton to Canton. Then he would have to leave to go to Canton to Easton, then get some rest. And then I'm going to call you to come pick me up, come back from Easton to go to Canton, then Canton back to Easton. And then you're going to go out and work whenever that happens. Who would ever make a plan like that? Nobody ever would. We all know that.
And we ordered food. And
But what makes sense to me is that we weren't thinking that it was going to get bad, or maybe he didn't feel whatever, and then you improvise. So
just hung out for a little bit, had food and some drinks.
And as far as drinks were concerned, do you recall sort of what you were drinking that night?
I was no idea, if anyone else was interested in doing that or wanted to do it. I had just said it to my sister.
And if anybody else had wanted to join or come along, would that have been an issue?
Oh, no, I would have no problem if anyone sitting with us had come.
As far as you knew, you just communicated that to your sister Jennifer, and whatever happened after that happened.
Yes.
And guess what? And Brian Higgins, when you ask him about that on the stand, and it's like, well, he's like, I had no idea who was coming back to 34 Fairview. And now it makes sense why he says it like that. Because you had no choice but to go back to 34 Fairview, because you rode with Brian Albert from Jump. That's where your vehicle is. So this was like, he's like, I had no idea who was coming back to 34 Fairview. And when he's on the stand, I had no idea who was invited or, nothing like that. Right. He has no choice but to go there. Okay. It doesn't matter if she was interviewed or not by them. They didn't ask that of her when they had her on the stand. You would have pointed that out. Okay. But they were too busy pointing out the fact that Proctor either spelled her name wrong on purpose or did it because he is a fucking incompetent fuck. And that is nothing compared to what Sarah Livingston had in gold. And that gold was the fact that she saw Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Nicole. They were all at the house when she was there. And the same person who she didn't know that it was Brian Higgins, but that whoever that person was, they had come back to the house afterwards. Ta-da! And so since the Jeep wasn't parked there, there's even a potentiality, okay, that, hey, drop me off actually over there in, I don't know, the Oakdale area, because that's where my Jeep is. For all we know, Higgins was over there and he left his Jeep. Who the fuck knows? Okay. All I can tell you is that Sarah Levinson had gold. And nobody asked her about it in a trial when it what fucking absolutely mattered. And it made sense because where's Higgins' vehicle? Why were Brian Albert and them like, if he's going to Canton and drops and has to do and move cars or whatever, remember Alan Jackson was like, you went to Canton earlier, so why didn't you move cars then when you were there? Remember that? And it's like, you guys, I don't even know if he went to Canton to change cars out. All I can tell you is that Higgins would know that his location services, if they were on, where it would put him. And just like they would know that, hey, we might have to have a story because we went up a flight of stairs. It's about the location data. And so, oh yeah, I went to Canton because I dropped Kevin off and then I went over and switched out my vehicle. Would love to know if that's on camera, you know? But just because you did that doesn't mean, so you're going to sit here and say that I did that and then I just drove to the Hilly myself. Well, Sarah Levinson says that you didn't. Sarah Levinson says that you came to the house beforehand. Okay. And that's pure gold. And then why would y'all drive separately if you were at the house? Hey, I'll drive. Yeah, I'm gonna drive the Hilly, and then and then I'm gonna drive the waterfall ball, and then I'm gonna drive it myself over back to your house. Well, that's just really strange. If it was always planning to come back to the house, like and hang out because it was like a blizzard party, who knows? But I would just see two dudes getting in a vehicle and trucking it around, and then going and picking up his wife and kid when he went back to the waterfall bar to do the hangout there at the end. So.
And when you say sort of the band was wrapping up and the bar sort of winding down.
12-ish.
And how did you get from the waterfall back to your house on Thursday?
My husband drove the three of us back to Fairview Road.
And what
vehicle did you drive in? That's an important question. That question was never asked. Go back and watch my coverage of this case. I was adamant to ask those questions on cross. What vehicle did you get in?
Came outside of the waterfall and were sort of getting in your car and about to drive home. What, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather or what was going on? You could still sort of see the street and the blacktop.
Yeah.
And again, about how long a car ride is that, generally speaking, from the waterfall to your house?
5 minutes, 7 minutes. When we arrived and I came in, my son was sitting there with his two friends and 5 minutes, 7 minutes.
And as when you arrived at Fairview, who, if anyone, was there when you got there?
When we arrived and I came in, my son was sitting there with his two friends and my nephew Colin, who is Julie and Chris's son. He was there. I kind of bumped into him when I walked in. I didn't realize he was there. I said, oh, hey, what are you doing here? And he said, oh, I just stopped by to see Brian, but I'm about to leave. My ride's about to be here. I said, oh, okay.
And let me back up just for a minute. So when you arrived there, your husband Brian was driving, where does he park in relation to the house?
We pulled into the driveway.
And typically, is there sort of a order to it as far as where the cars go, like his car versus your car versus any other car?
Not really, no.
Recall on that evening which side of the driveway he pulled into, the left?
I believe it was in front of the left garage.
Right there, problematic. Right there, I believe it was in front of the left garage, the left side. Okay. Dude, wait, what? So if you pulled in on the left side, that means ding, ding, ding. Higgins isn't playing parking lot to clear a spot out for you over there. Okay. First of all, dude, team, let's talk about the cars. That's exactly what this is all about. This case is all about these fucking cars. And until anybody wants to realize that, it can actually save Karen Reed heavily in her civil case, because the cars, that's where the lies are, in my opinion. In my opinion, I see that the cars are the problem. And right here, she's saying that, holy shit, they pulled on the left side. You understand, during this trial, I was literally making the diagram of every single person where they said that they parked, and every single person is saying that they parked in the same spot. I think maybe with the exception of one. And it would be really important to understand, well, do you understand, well, when you pulled in, was there anything in front of you? Was there a car in front of you? Do you remember? What car were you in? And then we're going to know where the fuck. Once we know what car you were in, we have the morning dash cam and the photos, because that's right where it should have stayed. If that vehicle isn't in that same spot, what were you guys playing? Parking lot again? You know what I mean?
And when you come into and enter,
And then what I would have asked all those people that were actually came to that house that were friends of Brian Jr., it was imperative to call to see if they would just talk to you. Hey, all I just have a couple questions about is, what time did you go there and did you drive there? How did you get there? Did you get dropped off? Did you drive yourself? Did your boyfriend drop you off? Dad, mom, who cares? Did you have your own car? Where did you park? What vehicles did you see while you were there, if you can remember? Was the driveway all full?
the house when you were living there at 34 Fairview? Was there, how many doors are there sort of on the front of the house?
Well, there's a side door.
And that's
I didn't like that because the side door walked right into the family room. Shoes off or wipe my feet or whatever. But some of the other people still may have gone in the side door.
And you mentioned that he had arrived. Did he give you any indication as to who that you had?
Not even. Just a quick interaction at a kitchen table in like the dining room area of the kitchen.
If you could explain to the jury sort of the layout of your home at Fairview. So we walked into a foyer.
Okay, so that's all I really want to hear her talk about. Let's see, where is it? Not that one, not that one, not that one.
Albert, Caitlin Albert, and Tristan Morris, and then were later joined by Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You testified that John O'Keefe and Karen Reed joined your group around 11 p.m. Is that right?
You're there for now. When
So based on your observations, you're engaging in sort of practice fighting techniques while you were at the Waterfall Bar and Grill.
I saw them fooling around with each other, yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, if I could show just a screenshot of a video that's been previously marked.
A screenshot of it? Sure.
Ms. Albert, do you see the two individuals sort of in closest frame to us with their backs turned to us? Two males?
Yeah.
I know it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
Who is the man that has just been zoomed in with the logo on the back of his sweatshirt?
I believe that's Brian Higgins.
Okay. And then defensive tactics, correct?
I assume so.
Could I show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 50?
Okay, so remember she talked about having like that
Can't
glass.
tell who that is.
Individual is.
This is an
Right.
instance where the video has to speak for itself, right?
Did you see what was in your hand?
Looks like a can.
And what time is that video?
Yep.
You guys had a fun night. It looks like you kind of grabbed a white claw. You're about to leave. Is that correct?
Yes.
You testified earlier that you got home.
So can we turn the lights back on and, okay.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Correct?
Yes.
Here's the light. You testified earlier that there are 4 cars that are usually parked in the driveway at 34 Fairview. Correct?
Yes.
And you listed
4 cars are usually parked in the driveway. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. In the trial, I was like, here we go. Liza's gonna do it. She gets the assignment. She's fucking on it, right? I was like, she's got it. Nope. Derailed by this fucking Ford Edge.
at least the make and model of about 3 of those vehicles.
Yep.
Do you recall that?
Yep.
You said there's a Cadillac that usually is parked in your driveway. There's a Ford Explorer, and there's a Ford Escape, correct?
Yep.
But you also said there's a 4th car. That's your husband's work vehicle.
Yes. Yep.
What type of car is that?
That's a Ford Edge.
A black Ford Edge.
Yes. Yep.
Is there
What vehicle did you guys drive home in the night from the Waterfall Bar? That question was never asked.
a reason that you didn't want to state or commit to that in front of this jury when you originally testified?
No, no reason. I was just trying to think of all the different cars. We have 5 kids. We've had a lot of different vehicles. I was just saying it as I remembered it.
News coverage in this case has revealed the importance of the Ford Edge.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
In your mind,
The news coverage in this case, dude, the news coverage in this case did not talk heavily about a Ford Edge. One person talked heavily about a Ford Edge. Okay. I love how they say cars. Go park the car in the Harvard Yard. Cars. Like a nightclub, the cars.
Ford Edge has significance to this case, doesn't it?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, can you answer?
The Ford Edge, I'm sorry. Dude, and you guys know I love Lucky to death, but Lucky never came out and said that it was a Ford Edge, for the record. Okay, no, you cannot lead and ask him, oh, was the car that you saw a Ford Edge? That's not how you do that. Okay. It was good enough to just say that there was a vehicle there that'd been fine. And then when you actually look at the goddamn paperwork and the pictures, what car is missing? because the that shitty little escape that belongs to the kids that are in college, so it wasn't even going to be there anyways.
To that, does the Ford Edge have significance?
That an eyewitness saw.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to stop you on that. The objection sustained.
Correct.
So I'm going to allow that question.
It's the Ford Edge, and that's the one
Objection,
thing
Your Honor.
that you did not mention in your initial testimony. Correct.
So I'm going to allow that question. Can you answer that?
I just was trying to think of all the different makes and models. I did not purposely say that.
I would have been talking about that fucking
You
caddy.
testified earlier that you weren't sure exactly where Brian Higgins parked that night when he arrived at your house. Correct.
Right.
And you said, I'm not sure, but then you gave a pretty vivid description about him being parked, you think, in front of the house by the mailbox facing away from your residence. Correct?
Right. Yep.
Is that statement something that's from your personal recollection or for something that you've discussed with other witnesses in this case?
No, it's from my personal recollection of what I'm pretty sure I remembered. He pulled in first. He backed out so we could pull in, and then I'm pretty sure he pulled out and parked along the curb where the mailbox was.
Why would anybody ever do that? And this is why Higgins, and I'm going to tell you why. Because they did not know if, at the time, in my personal opinion, what the guy across the street, okay, was able to pick up on the Ring camera across the street. And if it did save to like the cloud, and if it could eventually be ever found, that, because why would you ever drive back from the waterfall and like, oh, I'm gonna drag it, I'm gonna fucking plow. There's no, you guys saw it, there is no snow. You would never ever. First of all, the person's I would be flipping out if that was my house, because you would be ruining my driveway. Number one. Number two, you're just gonna fuck up your plow. Yeah, no, you would. But I said, okay, well, if he needed to actually get out of the vehicle so that he can move his Jeep, it would look like that, he was backing out. So that then the vehicle that was coming would go pull in, and then he pulls in behind. Okay.
So you haven't discussed that statement with any other witnesses in this case?
I don't.
Or if I let him out, because he's going to run and, hey, you guys don't have liquor, right? I'm going to run down the street over there. The guys have whatever, and I'm going to grab it, and I'll be right back.
Remember, I don't think so.
You testified earlier that when you arrived at 34 Fairview, your son, Brian Albert Jr. was there, Julie Nagel was there, Sarah Levinson was there, and that your nephew, Colin Albert, was also present, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe sort of your interaction with Colin Albert when you walked in the door?
It was literally, I was coming in. I think we almost bumped into each other. I said, I didn't realize he was there. I said, hey, what are you doing here? He said, oh, I just come by to see Brian, but my ride's on its way. I'm about to leave. And I said, oh, okay. I said, all right, I see you. And he just kind of continued on. I think he must have went out the door.
So when you first testified, I believe you stated that you saw Colin seated.
Okay, so like, also think about this. If they parked on the left-hand side, right? Whatever Higgins was doing to like be in the driveway on the right-hand side, the way that driveway is, we've been there, you could still like pull in and just be right, like what, huh? And then guess what though? If you park on that left side, Jen McCabe literally can't park there. And why this is significant is because when Sarah Levinson comes out and Julie Nail come out, they said that they walked to the vehicle and it is parked on that left side. It's the closest to get, walking out of the house. And I don't think they're lying about that. Matt McCabe has a nice history of he will park on the street and then he likes to run back out to the car, get in the car, right? Or if Jen was already in the vehicle, right, and it was sitting out in the front, then it's just kind of interesting that at 12:46, when the phone starts moving for the first time, it is that when, okay, I'm going to then pull the SUV into the driveway, because which would then remove the SUV from being in that right outside front, and everybody would have saw that. I mean, there's just so many ways to look at this, but what it seems like is that we have literally Jen's SUV on the street, Brian Nagel, and when they decide to come up or whatever, that's the big, SUV that they saw. Because when you actually have Ricky Dionato, whatever his name is, testify, he never says, I did not flash my lights and let anybody go. There was nobody. I just got there and left. I didn't see anybody there. When we pulled up, I saw an SUV when we pulled up. And they are adamant that there was no Jeep with a plow. And so where's this Jeep? And everybody's just saying that that was Karen Reed's SUV. I don't believe that it was. And I believe that it was somebody else's SUV. And there was other people there that had SUVs and they were females. So it makes perfect sense. And then when you mix it in with when the phone moves from when the watch is moving, interesting. But when you get tunnel vision, it's not a good thing.
At the table with Brian Jr., correct? So when you walked in the door, you're saying he was already leaving to go get his ride, correct?
He was standing and looked to me like he was getting ready for someone who was coming to pick him up.
Got it. And when you pulled up with Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, that all happened around the same time, correct?
Yes.
And you have never mentioned seeing any other vehicle waiting outside the house for Colin when you arrived, correct?
No.
You didn't observe another vehicle outside the house?
No, I'm not saying. He said to me, my ride's almost here. I'm leaving. So I didn't see anything outside about his ride.
And it was cold outside that night?
Yeah.
So he sort of walked out the door before his ride arrived?
I don't know if he went and stood and waited by the door. I came in the house and like I said, I immediately said hello to my son, his friends. I went and started doing my cleaning and I didn't really pay attention. But I assume he left because I never saw him again.
So you're not sure if he was sort of standing by the front door?
I'm not sure. I mean, he could have been standing there waiting. He said his ride was about to be there.
Okay. But you didn't see him leave?
I did not see him leave.
You testified that your German Shepherd, Chloe, was also at the house when you arrived home on January.
All right. Now for the latest bombshells. Turtleboy's phone extraction has now graced everybody all over. And how in the world can one person say that this is Meredith O'Neill's fault? Yes, absolutely. Yes. That's why my biggest thing, Panda, is you just need to go hard at these cops. This is ridiculous. And going at the witnesses, like, I think that they took a bad beat with that a little bit, and it just needed to be focused on, hello, Higgins, right? Higgins and his connections, and to help him after the fact. Okay. Hello. Well, and then hello. And then really look at that, I just can't believe it would never cross any of their minds that, hey, we're not saying that you didn't drop John off, but are we sure that you dropped him off at this location? Because where all the steps are and where all the flights are, they're over in this area. And can you imagine that argument right now? They're the people that said, nobody has ever testified that they saw Karen Reed. Not a single soul. And there's nothing wrong with Karen Reed saying that. And I was just shocked when she said that, hey, well, when he was in the car that he did the whole, ways. And I'm like, why would you say that? Because trial one, they could not put you with John. That was like the big problem for them. John's ways have nothing to do with Karen. And I think that they knew that. And I think it was like, wow, she went ahead and told people, like a reporter, that she was in the car and he was in the car and that whole ways happened. And I'm just like, but I believe that was strategic. But you guys, there was multiple cars that were out on that road. And if you want to include then Karen's, then it was a goddamn, like, literally a parking lot out there. Ryan Nagel's vehicle, Higgins' vehicle, Jen McCabe's vehicle, and Karen's all just lined up. Well, that's what I think it was. I think it was strategy so that they had to stay with that. And then they were like, we have 13 witnesses. You know what I mean? But so let's talk about this privilege. Now, I wanted to look into this whole civil case with, has Karen waived privilege? What was she telling Turtleboy? What type of questions is she going to have to answer? Because anything you talk with your lawyer about, and you are getting information from your lawyer about, and you're discussing, that's client attorney privilege. So for me, it's like, if you ask Karen Reed questions outside of what her knowledge is, and if it was obtained by her lawyer saying X, Y, and Z, you can object to that because that's privileged information, right? Unless it's facts. If you're establishing facts, then that's the only time that it's not, right? But has Karen countersued, right? Because the moment that she does that, right, then she's putting herself in, okay, yeah, you're going to be having to talk a lot. So let's rehash a couple of these things. Turtleboy enters himself, claims to have sources, and there was a big old fight in that house. Okay. Well, definitely that's not how that happened, but now what's Turtleboy's privilege? Meaning you don't think that the O'Keefes are going to depose him? They are. And they're going to wait till after his criminal case to do his deposition, because they're not, he'd be able to, he has an interest right now. And so they're going to wait till after his criminal case. And then he'll be deposed after his criminal case is adjudicated. Whatever happens, and they're going to depose him. So, for example, who are Turtleboy's sources? Right? Who are his sources? Do you think that that's privileged? Ask Gretchen Voss if that's privileged. She had to turn over what? Hella shit. What is just going to say? I got all these anonymous people just hitting me up and they were telling me X, Y, and Z. And yet not a single email exists, not a single text or phone call or anything exists. So then he's just going to come out and say, well, is he going to say, well, Karen was giving me everything? What do you mean Karen was giving everything? Ready? Karen was giving you police reports. Okay, so what? Who was putting 10 on top of 2? Well, according to just a little dab, it was a little quid pro quo. He was getting tips that were better than a lot of the tips that we were getting. And I was helping him getting up to speed on what he had missed from the previous year and a half. And I'm over here like, oh my God. You guys, Karen came out to HBO on the record and said that Turtleboy was getting way more tips than she and her team were, okay? And that his tips were panning out. Wait, panning out how? And who are these tips? Who are these anonymous people? Who are these people? What tips? Because what panned out? What panned out? What panned out? From what I'm told, there are no sources in his phone. There's nothing there that's like, you know, hey, I got all these cops calling me. I got people giving me this. I got people giving me that. None of that exists. So, hey, Alan, Karen, Yannetti, hey, how are you guys? Guess what? Everything that I told you guys back in the day, nobody was really calling into my show. Nobody was really sending me those emails, and I was making up fake Facebook accounts, acting like, it was X, Y, and Z. Okay. What? Like, so to hear that on the record that his shit was panning out and her shit, she's like, he was getting tips that were better than a lot of the tips that we were getting. And I was helping him get up to speed on what he had missed. She says, I don't have any shame. I haven't denied it. I'll tell anybody how often it's in the phone records. I talk to him almost every day, and he lied to you almost every day. That's what Karen's thinking. Yep. And he lied to me every single day. This case has been massive for him. And it's my entire life. So yeah, we talked about Jen McCabe and Michael Proctor. Because Karen reads over here, and as she rightfully so, she's like, these motherfuckers lied about me. Okay? Lied about me and tried to, as she's concerned, frame her for murder, right? So yeah, we talked about Jen McCabe and Michael Proctor and what's in the latest discovery. And, what do you guys think you're going to do next? ? We had all these conversations. Well, on April 29th, Reed texted through Natalie and said, this is the only thing that I think's to bring up the, Patrick is wearing a jersey with his uncle's murders on it. Carrie Roberts is a fucking cunt. Again, the fucking cunt, who gives a shit? You can be called any name you want. But after what I just saw happen in Idaho and you're calling people murderers, it's just, according to Idaho, fucking 10 million per person. Tell TB, great job with the geofence. Please, if you agree, post something to the supporters of the Furbished children. These supporters can no longer pretend to care what happens to those kids. And then texting from Signal. Check your signal. Check your signal. Check your signal. And and then when you go on to read a little bit further, is obviously these phones were going to be part of the discovery, because it says here in July of 2025, plaintiffs propounded the discovery and preservation orders upon Reed and a subpoena upon NDAO requesting the extractions from these phones. None have been provided to date, and no privilege log was provided. And so over here, I can simply, like, it's all to me about like what's fair. And so, hey, if nobody has anything to hide, no, I don't think calling people names, hey, everybody cough up their shit. Everybody wants to sue each other. That means you're going to air out your dirty laundry, which means, of course, I said nasty things about you. Okay, of course I did. But this is how I see it playing out. I think both parties, everybody here in this case, every single person, okay, has literally caused emotional distress upon each other, right? Because a jury makes the decision. A jury decides, right? And it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the, hey, which side tips the scale? Okay. Well, Karen Reed was being framed for murder, right? Who did the framing, though? Go back and listen to Jennifer McCabe when she's adamant about, like, I did not tell, that's not what I said. So when these cops were writing these police reports, and I was saying that, I was like, guys, you need to go after the cop that wrote the report, especially when the witness is saying that, yep, you just showed me that. No, that does not refresh my recollection, because I never said that. I never said that to the police. And so it's like, oh, wow. So like, this is a false police report, you know? Somebody asked me today, do I think that Aiden's phone being, surfacing and all that shit, does it have something to do with this? File with the phones because she was going to get her phones. Absolutely not. If you actually read this, it's proof that that has nothing to do with the other one, because they, in July of 2025, served the parties, and there's been talks, and it's just like, we don't trust Karen though. Okay. We don't trust Karen that if you give her these phones back, they're going to be wiped. Okay. This is part of discovery. We need those phones. And then Karen can have, Karen should be getting all of their phones. Karen should be getting their Google history on where they were, right? iCloud, all this type of shit. Everybody should have everybody's shit, because there should be, hey, I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him. Everyone's saying, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Well, somebody fucking did. Unless it was, what was it? Just because somebody put the tail light, right? Because the murder weapon isn't the murder weapon if you talk about science. Yeah, hit it up. The people who say he was just telling them to tell the truth, Judge Doolin said in his order on the motion to dismiss, May 2025, cited case law saying that action could be found as witness intimidation. Yes, it's 1000% witness intimidation according to the Massachusetts state. You guys, he wasn't just telling them to tell the truth. He is literally and has recorded himself saying how the neighbors of Julie, to help get the neighbors on Julie. That's absolutely fucked up. Get on what, man? This tactic was the stupidest tactic I think you could ever do, because all of these witnesses are saying that there was no body on the lawn. In order for Karen to have done this, there has to be a body there. Okay? But let's just fucking call a spade a spade. How come it didn't come out, and Turtleboy did not put it out, that Higgins was infatuated with Karen Reed? Hell, that would have saved a whole second trial if you ask me. How the fuck isn't that the story? Higgins, Karen Reed, texting each other, sexting, whatever you want to call it. Whoa. Give me some reasons as to why that one. I know of one reason, and one reason only, and I don't think it's a good one. Because the only thing that could set you free is the truth, in my opinion, because you have the truth on your side. You didn't do anything to him. Okay? Oh, I know. TB said he was blindsided by that info at trial. She never told him. And somebody should ask me why. Why? Kevin never told Turtleboy about it. Who the fuck is Kevin? It's Kevin? You mean like, who the fuck is Kevin? At 12, but yeah, he gets out of the car, went Waterley towards 34 Fairview, complete stop at 20. Then I have him being over still in Oakdale at 12:21:10. And I think that he was brought back with a person in their vehicle that was over there. From South Boston, Lana lived and endorsed all things for Turtleboy. What? Are you fucking retarded, man? The fuck are you talking about? From day one, I said that she never ever went to 34 Fairview. And guess what? You want to know why I said that? Because of the evidence. because of the evidence. I said, I'm not taking Karen Reed's word for anything because me personally, that's not what you do. It's like, here's what it is. And all you would say is, Karen, holy shit, you've never been at 34 Fairview before, have you? Nope. And when you got there that morning and they're telling you that you came here, you're like, what? I don't remember coming here. What are you talking about? Like, because it didn't look familiar, did it? Sure didn't. You've never been there before, right? Nope. So wherever you dropped him off, like, you could have dropped him off down the road. You could have dropped him off over here. Here. Yeah, because we got lost. And when he got out of the car, he said he was running up and he was going to make sure that this was the place and that what it was popping off, or was it just that she was supposed to be only dropped off because she was leaving? Remember, the version he puts out, Turtleboy, is she doesn't fucking go to after parties. Like, fuck, I'm not going there, but I'll drop you off. And then she just dropped him off and then she just left. So, like I said, the world heard all these versions. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, because it's how do you know that you even dropped him off at 34 Fairview? You've never been there before. I'm understanding it is when she pulled up, it looked like it was dead. Like there was nobody there. There was no party here. I'm a 4-year diehard Atlanta fan. Yes. I'm all about the truth, man. The truth is the truth. The truth is the truth is the truth. It's been 2 years, but my woo! I mean, come on. I just know that in trial 1, we all knew that ways existed because Alan Jackson put it in that May. He put in his motion in April and they oral argued it May 2nd. And they oral argued again on like May 25th of 2023. And it's just like, so let's talk about it. Why the fuck? Hello, Higgins. Well, and then when you find out that he writes John and says, you know, you coming here? Like, and then when you text him and you say that John died and he never writes you back, I mean, do you want to know what would be going on in my head? Oh my God, this motherfucker got into it with John and whatever happened between him and John. Because what else could there possibly be is to, like, what the fuck? I would have never thought in a million thousand years that I ever hit him. I would have been like, I would have been in shock that I find my boyfriend on the ground, right? And snow and oh my God, but wake up really quick when you got police, just like anything else, in my opinion, when you have police coming to your house. And also, like, I've heard so many times that you usually don't, hey, that person could have been in shock or whatever, and hey, let's interview them again. And that should tell us a lot here. Why not bring in Karen Reed to do a formal interview? Why not bring her to the station? Why not attempt to get a formal interview even after, like, she has a lawyer to say, hey, do you get, and then maybe United was like, no, like, we're not. Maybe she wants to proffer something up to say, hey, but here it's Higgins those over here doing wild shit. Like, hey, I'm going to go get my text messages. Like, third party culprit is him, and everything after him, it's all accessory after the fact, right? So Karen Reed's going to be asked questions like, when you went over, when you left the house, why did you go to, the waterfall bar first? What did you say on the phone with, did you guys talk on the phone? Yep. If they're going to allow that, I think they should, because they're a defendant, so that should be fine. It just doesn't make any sense. I would have been going ham after Higgins from jump. Higgins doesn't respond to me when I send that text, like John died. Think about it. Think about it. And then Turtleboy, he has no fucking clue. But to sit and read that Turtleboy came with these fucking, he has all these tips. Oh my God, this is going to be, I want to see these tips. Just the tip. Just the tip. Because he has no tips. There is no sources here. There is no Canton officer or somebody that worked for Canton or multiple people that went and told the defense anything. Did you guys see them in the trial? How about this secret? Hey, just tell him for sure. We know we have a witness that moved the body and what time it moved at. Did you guys see that happen in the trial? Because I know that I did, and I watched both of them. Who was that witness? They're protecting everyone in the house, including her. A healthcare worker letting a man die in front of her and then lying to police to cover for his killers. I mean, this is Turtleboy back then. Like, what? You were so ham about Sarah Levinson and you didn't even see the fact that she was giving you gold. I'm doing a quick blurb about Sarah Levinson. That's all he cares about. Sarah and Julie. Julie and Sarah. Well, Julie and Sarah are literally going to rake him over the coals in a civil case. Sarah Levinson didn't know shit. Okay? I take that back. Sarah Levinson knew shit, and it was gold. She knew that Higgins was at the house earlier, and she knew that Brian and Higgins were together, and that Brian Higgins and Nicole left together. But let's not use that. Unbelievable. Okay? Unfucking believable. Stick to the facts of this case. Leave the drama out of it. And here to come to find out that this whole case was literally all it was drama. It makes me sick. John O'Keefe deserves better. Okay? I'm the type of person, it doesn't matter how somebody else is going to act. Like, I just, hey, we'll outsmart them. We're going to show that they did X, Y, and Z. John died on his freaking watch. In my opinion, that's what it meant. Whose? On Sarah Levinson's watch? Sarah Levinson wasn't his nurse. Is that what you mean? Pouring love to Lana. Josie's on a vacation for. I can't keep up. Josie, $49.99, $49.99. Where the hell? Yeah, Higgins and John Boy, right where he wanted him. Yeah, crazy. Yuck, Lana. Why you say his name like that? Whose name? I think all. Josie. They cleaned this up so easily and readily. It makes me wonder how premeditated this was all. I don't know about that. So why would everyone at 34 Fairview cover for Higgins? You guys, I'm sorry, but I think Laposado talked about that garage and covering for people. I don't know how hard it is to cover for people if it's like in the Idaho 4 case. Kaylee and Maddie, they weren't killed until 4. Their phones stopped moving at 2:53. Okay, but they're still alive. So everybody's saying, hey, John's dead because John's phone didn't move again. Nah. I think that's just, I think the way that it worked out like that is because the phone was left in a vehicle right out front and in, and if it was left in a vehicle, it could have potentially been that, grabbed it. I don't know. Did Higgins, did whoever put it in the glove box? I don't know. I'm just saying that in other cases that I know, they take the whole that he stopped, walking with the phone. Nah. Also, John's phone throughout the night, you guys, it's all messed up. It's all messed up. His phone seems like it's not reporting to the network from, I don't know, 1:30 to 6. Come on. That's fucked in and of itself. Exactly like Idaho's shit show. Yeah. They didn't preserve anything. He didn't, when Trooper Proctor didn't go and get the geofence, hello. He didn't do that for fucking Jennifer McCabe. He did that for someone like a Higgins. That's the blue part. Higgins, they worked together. Okay, like and then I just think that people are giving Jennifer McCabe way too much and I believe Celebrate when they say that how that all operated and that it actually wasn't until the next day. Okay, I believe that. And I believe that that's going to potentially exonerate some people that got roped up in that glitch that was going on. So I just want to know how the dog bites got there. The garage. Where'd they put Chloe? They say Chloe was upstairs. Maybe Chloe wasn't upstairs. Maybe Chloe was in the garage. Maybe, hello, when they let Chloe outside. I mean, also, there was dogs over there in Oakdale. A canine for the police department was over there. Jen took care of the girl plan stuff. I believe a Faraday bag was used as well. I believe it was used as well. But to come out the gate swinging back in April of 2023 and not knowing the case, and literally May, a defense fund is set up at the end of May 23rd, 2023. Like, that was Turtleboy's job. Like, he was auditioning for that. And like Karen said, this like made his career. And now he's out here saying, you didn't make me, I made you. It just fucking gets me every time. Wait, what? The fuck are you talking about? Karen Reed 1000% made him. How anybody could see it any other way, but guess what? Easy come, easy go, I guess, because do you guys know what next month is? Next month is going to be the cutoff month. If any of these people are suing civilly, the statute of limitations is up after next month. Lank lives on Oakdale. The canine officer lives on Oakdale. So not only is Turtleboy facing the criminal charges that he's facing, which based on the Massachusetts statute, he is guilty of. That's why I say that he's guilty. Okay, is because of the Massachusetts statute, right? Also, I think that a police officer, okay, I mean, it's really sad when you think about it. They're going to use that as an, like, how do you mitigate that? You can't. This was done during a Boston police officer's murder investigation and trial. That's fucking crazy. Okay. And the judge is the one that does the sentencing. And so I think, though, that he will serve his stuff not consecutive, but concurrent. And that's why when you look at it every way from Friday, it's like, he called all of these people murderers. All of them. That just happened in Idaho with a TikToker. The professor was awarded $10 million. Who cares if he was a police officer? That could be your stance, but it's called a aggravating circumstance, which it enhances. And so Turtleboy, for this also being a murder case, the witness intimidation went from not just being 10 years per count, but it's 20 years per count. So I don't know who and where you're watching anything, but I think it's hilarious that these lawyers, do you see how nobody wants to cover this case? Why do you think that is? I'm going to tell you why that is. Because the Karen Reed movement meant a lot to so many people, and the fact that there is corruption out there, right? Turtleboy's case isn't that. Nobody was framing Turtleboy. Okay. Turtleboy used tactics, okay, that quite frankly, the defense team knew or should have known was a fucking big no-no. Can you control a person though? No, you can't control a person. Okay. All you can do is, hey, stop talking to them, cut them off, right? But someone like Turtleboy, okay, that doesn't happen. Remember, he tells you when you're done with him. You don't tell him when you're done with him. He tells you. And these lawyers aren't covering it because Turtleboy doesn't want to hear what they have to say. But more importantly, none of these people want any of the absolute shit show Jerry Springer dumpster fire that motherfucker brings. Okay? And attacks. And Melanie Little can't even, like, honestly, when she's covering Turtleboy's case now, she's so stiff. Go watch that video that she just posted. Watch her be the most biased person I've ever seen reading this. And now all this shit that's coming out with the text messages between him and Alan Jackson, him and David Yannetti. And then they go to Signal or whatever. At the end of the day, you're going to be asked these questions on the stand in this civil proceeding. But in his case, in the criminal case, all of these witnesses, they're just going to be the people that testify. And they're going to testify to how life was before this case and then what happened after the case. And he hasn't lifted off the gas pedal at all. I mean, how embarrassing to literally read that Sarah Levinson article. How wrong. Like, but I'm not talking like wrong as in like, how dare you do that to her? How wrong did you fucking swing and miss, motherfucker? Sarah Levinson was an amazing witness. And you fucking shat yourself. Literally. And so did the defense team. Because it's right here in the report. She saw fucking Brian Higgins and Brian Albert and Nicole all beforehand at the house. Nobody asked what car they were in. Nobody made a diagram to show how these fucking cars would just be piling on top of each other like Legos. No. Because people had to babysit Turtleboy. Because they were focusing on Colin Albert. Because they wanted to hide everything as much as they could with Brian Higgins. Because they thought it made Karen look bad. And so Melanie Little is just living in a hole because she has no choice. Because once you lay in the bed, you lay in the bed. And she's like, I am not taking any of that backlash. So I will read my docs, and I don't want any problems with any turtle riders. Lana, please arm wrestle Turtleboy. I got 500 on you. Because Karen and Higgins conspired to get rid of John. No, I don't think that you can even make that claim. But yeah, that's what people could say. But the evidence isn't there for that. It'd be the weirdest conspiring ever. But you'd have to, in order for that to ever be, you'd have to charge Higgins. And they were never going to charge Higgins. And that's what everybody should have seen. The person that was really, truly being protected was Higgins. And all Turtleboy was going out there and doing in the month of May and in June and July and August, besides his rolling rallies and his ridiculousness, is he was trying to act like he had all of this information that he truly didn't have. And he was trying to attempt to create a divide. Okay. And he was doing all of that to try to get people to crack. Hey, someone's going to, and Turtleboy tactics is he goes after the weak link. Whoever he thinks is the weakest link, he attacks. Okay. And he goes for things that you love. Okay. And that makes sense because look at his reporting. Who did he go after? Sarah motherfucking Levinson. He went after her fucking nursing license. He put all of those deranged fucking hillbilly motherfuckers, put all of her information out there, and he let them go real life on her. And the defense team continued to work with him after he put out all this shit. It's like, you guys are condoning this because that's an ethical issue. And when you become a lawyer, you take an oath. And you can't do any of that type of shit. Not for the purpose to go out there. These aren't asking questions. This is straight up fucking harassment, witness intimidation to a T. And just because there wasn't violence, someone breaking someone's arm and shit like that, wake up, it's 2026. People aren't committing suicide because, they just got beat up in the playground and got fucking punched a couple times. Okay, people are going and committing suicide because of people that are online bullying. He chose to be the bulldog for the defense team. And it's all going to come out. And I have a hard time now thinking that the defense team didn't do their homework on who he was before. We're just going to give this man all of our shit. And I'm just going to tell him all of our trial strategy. Or I'm going to tell him about things that, here, you can give him this, because the way Turtleboy was operating is that anytime anybody had a story and was covering the case and knew something and Karen was talking or gave up, hey, what are you doing talking? Like, give me more. I need more. Where's my stuff? I need more. It's all out. Listen to his shit. He puts it all out there when he bashed Karen. When he's like, I'm selling out the Wilbur and you're sleeping on your mom's couch. Are you fucking kidding me? You're selling out the Wilbur? Who gives a fuck? You're going to be in prison for like 20 years. You're going to be selling out your cell. And as much as you talk about Chris Watts, maybe you can just go be his fucking cellmate. Chris Watts is guilty as fuck. You're guilty as fuck. You're dumb as fuck. And this is an absolute... It is going to put it's going to put the biggest asterisk next to Karen Reed's name on her acquittal when this comes back as witness intimidation, because everybody out there is going to say that Karen Reed did it. And if Turtleboy and they wouldn't have witness intimidated and did all these things, that she would have been found guilty, because Lally got a 9-3 hung jury that way. I'm telling you, the day is coming when Hank Brennan says that these other people weren't going to testify. They told me that they weren't going to testify, so I couldn't call X, Y, and Z to the stand. Even if that's a lie, they're going to say it. And I try to tell people that back in the day. I was like, dude, I see the writing on the wall right now. Once I saw where Hank Brennan was going with how he was running that trial, I was like, oh my God. If this isn't guaranteeing a win for the Commonwealth for the Turtleboy case, I don't know what is. Like, I was like, I was watching it in real time. I was like, this is bad. This is bad for Turtleboy. Karen Reed turned down like millions, supposedly, like 1.5 million to not be around him for 6 consecutive weeks doing some like whore tour. 1.5 million. She said, huh? And then you know what he's saying? Go get a job. Go get a job like everybody else. Stop asking people for money. Oh my God, what? Dude, what? Like, what? Who cares? She is not in prison. That's all that matters. Yeah. Unless when you have next to your name, this civil suit, we'll see how it plays out. I personally think that all of these sides created all of this. They all created this emotional distress. Both sides did. So how I see that happening is a wash. But you're gonna have to prove that the kids lied on the stand. Otherwise, that I believe that they would have, from based off of this, that post would cause emotional distress upon the kids. And I don't know why Karen Reed would ever fucking tell Turtleboy to talk about the kids. I don't care if they lied about you. They're fucking kids and they're being manipulated. If that's what you think. They lied, then they're being manipulated. I would be always saying the kids are off limits. Don't you ever fucking talk about them. Like, I love those kids. I don't care how they feel about me. Like, it's because of X, Y, and Z. I didn't do anything to John. I know that. But what they're being fed and what they're being told, like, that's just when it's about like what type of a person you are. So I also believe that Karen Reed was venting to him. Okay. And so when they would have these talks, she would vent to him and stuff like that. And then he went out there and said stuff that he was not supposed to say, because that's what I think Bella's all big on. Is she's like, I think Karen Reed has every right to say that, 99% of the stuff that I was talking to him about was off the record because it crossed over to like a friendship. Okay. And then what he started doing was, ridiculous. And you have to remember this, guys. They stopped communicating in October. Turtleboy lost his job with Karen Reed when he was arrested. He was basically the fundraising manager for 5.5 months. 5.5 months. And then Alan Jackson was like, you guys cannot be talking. And then what does Turtleboy come out and say that he did? He said this. He said, I called Karen Reed the next day and she talked to me. And then he's spinning it, trying to say that, yeah, Karen Reed just is a fucking horrible client. She doesn't listen to her lawyers. She just does whatever she wants. And now he's out here saying that fucking Meredith, you're the one. Meredith, this is all happening because you did X, Y, and Z. You guys, that is the delusional thinking as to why he will spend, I'm telling you, he's going to prison. I just don't know how long. That's up to the judge, but he's guilty of these statutes in Massachusetts. It is what it is. And his lawyers, there's just nothing that his lawyers can do, because he recorded himself doing the shit. It's not even like a my word versus your word type of thing. It's like my word plus here's the proof. You want to watch the whole episode? Go right ahead. I think I put it out there a couple weeks ago. I said, why has Turtleboy never talked about his phones? I would have been showing everybody, hey, let's take a look at my cell phones here. Or if I can't show you them, I can at least talk about whatever I want to talk about. He didn't do X, Y, and Z. They're going to have to prove my intent, all this stuff. You guys, the intent's there. The intent's there when you're knowing ahead of time that Sarah Levinson did not testify at the grand jury. Okay. That means you have no testimony. Do you understand that Caitlin Albert, when he started doing this stuff, some of these people had never been interviewed. Never been interviewed. Never been interviewed. Caitlin Albert, Sarah Levinson, Colin Albert, Caitlin Albert, Colin Albert, Sarah Levinson, Tristan Morris, was Brian Jr. Who else? Oh yeah, all of those people that were at the house earlier. So here I want to show you a couple of things I found from back when he did, and then I'm going to be closing this out. Turtleboy writing poems about, I never thought that my girlfriend that I loved would ever do X, Y, and Z. What comes first? Okay. What comes first? That guy can think that he can justify whatever in his head. But if you don't ever do something, then the person that you're with or not with, or you share, there's nothing to share with them. You committed an illegal act, and then you're saying, yeah, but if it's all this person's fault that they leaked your illegal act. Do you know how fucked up that is? It's just like, and then you understand though, when you go back, and that's all I want to do is I wanted to go back and I want to say, like, who really is this guy? And then you realize that this is nothing new. Every page that he's used in the Karen Reed case, this is his playbook. It's like I went to study film and I'm like, oh my God, I can call his next play out before he can call his next play out. When you want to talk about vanilla, oh my God, dude. He's got no curveball, no changeup. He is the most vanilla motherfucking person. And his lawyers are just sitting there collecting their checks, like all lawyers do. And then they're going to say, hey, take the plea deal. Hey, the plea deal. Hey, we can get you a plea deal. I will say, when I do laugh about when Turtleboy does something like, hey, or this was funny, or this or that, whatever. So last night, okay, here, no, I actually want to play this first. Last night, he made me laugh. He made me laugh last night. I'll show you why. Look
a
at
key witness in Reed's case. Kearney is free on bail and has pleaded not guilty to the charges against him.
Look at this. This is hilarious to me. He's out with his boyfriend.
Kearney,
the glare. And this is what they do when they're out.
A blogger known as Turtleboy has once again been indicted for intimidating witnesses in the Karen Reed case. These latest charges stem from an incident outside a pizza shop owned by a key witness in Reed's case. Kearney is free on bail.
Like, how old are you? And so I was remembering that, and I was like, geez, like, and then there's the glare, like, dude, you guys can have conjugals, don't worry. Okay, Massachusetts is going to change their rules. They're going to allow conjugals so that Turtleboy and the glare can still have the peen touch. Like, what an idiot. Okay. And so when I saw that, I was just like, dude, a good friend isn't doing this behind you. Look at him.
Outside a pizza shop owned by a key witness in Reed's case.
I would be like, what are you doing? And I would never be the person on the camera. Dude, get out of here, man. So whatever, you know. And then there's Bradle, like, yeah, would I do that, Your Honor? No. Would you? No. Is it smart? No, but it's not First Amendment. It's not, what he did is not witness intimidating. It's not this, it's not that, it's not a, you know, he didn't violate anything, blah, blah. And I'm just like, stupid as a stupid does. Like, come on. This is just fucking stupid. Why would you ever leave it up to anybody to ever like try to say that that would be, you know, something. But just the fucking two idiots, two completely fucking, you know. So last night he does a stream. It says, "Does Kelsey Fitzsimmons need a Turtleboy?" And I'm like, get the fuck out of here! I'm gonna check this out. Somebody writes in, and I was dying. Somebody had sent it, and I was like, dude, this is hilarious. And so, like, when I find something funny, I'm like, hey, when this happened, I was like, he tells somebody to go, basically, I like my dick outside my pants, and I think this is it. God. Where does he read these? Oh, here. Hold on. Hold on, I gotta pull this up.
No ass. They no ass. You know, I'm like the Chico when I see them. I'm like, fucking no. Firefighters work like 48-hour shifts. You know what I mean? They sleep there. They live there.
Kelsey needs a Turtleboy.
Desperate. She's had one thing I am worried about is I start getting involved in this and asking a lot of questions. And we know the victim mentality. These people are going to be like, oh, Tim Bradle is, one of his other clients is old. He called up the intimidator. He's like, oh, the case isn't working out for us. We got to call up the intimidator from the bullpen. You know, that's what they're going to say. They had to call. And I'm not kidding. They will 1000% do that. They are waiting for me to get involved just so they can be like, he's intimidating the witnesses again. Bradle called up his old intimidator friend.
Oh, he may have taken some stuff out. Yeah, it looks like he took it out. It was cracking up. Well, he told somebody that he was going to put his dick in their mouth to shut him up.
Next, my elements of my phone extraction. And she's posting who I have a restraining order on her. Okay. And Krusty Panties is posting she claims she's in full possession of my phone extraction. Okay. And she's posting communications between me and David Unetti and me and Alan Jackson and others. Okay. And keep in mind, I have an order on her, and so does Lauren Murray. And inside that phone extraction are intimate images, I guess you would say, of both of us. Okay. And now she is announcing to the world that she possesses them while both of us have an order against her, which is ill-advised to begin with.
Totally.
And so you might have asked, where did she get it? Right? Where could she get it from? And her answer, if I go on here, let's see what she says.
Look at this. All day, every day.
Okay.
Well,
right. Okay.
Dude, I think he's taking it out.
Yeah. So she says,
he told
this is not stealing. Okay. She's announcing that she got it.
He told somebody to go
5150.
Open up their mouth so you can stick his dick in it.
This is not stealing. She says Aiden really doesn't understand the word stealing. This is not the first time he's used to describe something that's clearly not stealing. So this is Aiden's version of Meredith stealing his phone extraction. So this is if you kept your dick in the pants. Who the fuck wants to keep their dick in their pants?
Oh my God. So when I find funny things, like, so I get sent this and I'm like, what the fuck? Listen to this shit. Listen to this. Motherfucker. Here you go.
We have some fun with it. Anyway, that's that.
Here it is.
All right, cool. Let me read some turtle chats. You wouldn't be in this situation if you kept your dick in the pants. Who the fuck wants to keep their dick in their pants? I hate when people say that. You wouldn't be in this situation if you didn't keep your dick in your pants. Yeah, if you just never fucking came or had an orgasm, everything would be fine. Life would be much simpler. Yeah, you keep your dick in your pants. Never have fun. I don't want to keep my dick in my fucking pants. Okay? I have way too much fun with it outside of my pants, as I should be able to. Okay? telling these people, don't keep your dick in your pants. How about I put my dick in your mouth instead? How about we do that? Can we do that so we can shut you the fuck up? Nobody wants to hear your bullshit about keeping your dick in your pants. Oh my God.
You guys, the only thing I can keep thinking about was prison. I'm like, dude, you're gonna want to keep your dick in your pants. He's like, I like my dick out of my pants. I'm like, oh God, that is not gonna age well.
Exactly. Pants. As I should be able to. Okay. At all on Karen Reed's phone. Confidence is what's on her. Well, no phone. That two people. I didn't no part of this anymore. I make the big bitches. We have some fun with it. Because my buddy. And I use my buddy's profile picture. It's kind of funny, but
He was talking about
anyway,
Tinder.
that's that. That's that. All right, cool.
Where
Let me
is it?
read some.
Oh, here.
Never fucking came. This wouldn't be, you wouldn't be in this situation if you didn't keep your dick in your pants. Yeah, if you just never fucking came or had an orgasm, everything would be fine. Life would be much simpler. Yeah, go, you keep your dick in your pants. Never have fun. I don't want to keep my dick in my fucking pants. Okay. I have way too much fun with it outside
Okay, Warden, I don't want to keep my dick in my pants. Do you hear me?
of my pants, as I should be able to. Okay. Telling these people, don't keep your dick in your pants. How about I put my dick in your mouth instead? How about we do that? Can we do that so we can shut you the fuck up? Nobody wants to hear your bullshit about keeping your dick in your pants. Oh my God. Exactly. This is a special one. This is not meant to be caged.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, let's read some turtle chats.
Okay. Anyways, back to our program here. Meredith ruins everything. Meredith was doing all the work in the Turtleboy case, basically for Turtleboy, and then Meredith leaves, and God knows what happens. Anyways, thank you guys for joining tonight. I wanted to end on that laughing note. Turtleboy, march on, motherfucker. Good luck. Keep on keeping on. Keep your dick outside your pants and helicopter it around. Do whatever the fuck you want. Hey, Julie Nagel. Hey, girl. I really didn't mean any of that shit. You want to see my dick? Hey, Julie. Hey, Sarah. I didn't do any. I'm really sorry. Okay. Peace out, guys. Take it easy. We'll see you on the next one.